Welcome to Confirmation Bias, presented by the League Ambassadors.
I'm Ambassador Kenny Ken, and President Kolinda Grabar-Kitarovic is why Croatia is the winner on Sunday. And that's my confirmation bias.
I'm Ambassador Junior Blue, and whoever came up with PSLs can kiss my ass. And that's my confirmation bias.
I'm Ambassador Dad, and all I got to say is sometimes the GOAT can be a donkey. And that's my confirmation bias.
I'm Red O, and this episode is at least the fourth time of this season of Confirmation Bias where the main segment was about my life. Shoulda, coulda, woulda. And that's my confirmation bias. Yikes.
And I'm Ambassador Chef Curry. Racism is as American as apple pie and pepperoni pizza. And that's my confirmation bias.
Welcome to Confirmation Bias, hosted by the League Ambassadors. As a reminder, please check us out across all social media platforms on our handle at The League AM and on our website, theleagueam.com, where you can find all of our content, including our flagship NFL podcast, 32 Kings Road, as well as our blogspot diplomatic community, where you, the fan, can write in and drop your bars and spit your hot fire as it pertains to the world of sports. For those of you who are watching us on Facebook Live, please share the feed, and also please send us any questions or comments so we can attempt to address them at the end of our show on our segment Diplomatic Immunity. And please remember to download and subscribe to Confirmation Bias Podcast wherever you listen to podcasts, and also subscribe to our YouTube channel under the banner League Ambassadors. This is episode 62 of our podcast, and we have another fun show for you today. We will discuss the hottest topic in sports right now, which is the World Cup. We will check across the pond in Wimbledon, and we will give our thoughts the only way that the League Ambassadors can on the biggest what-ifs in sports history. So let's get right into hot topics today. Junior Blue, sir, what it do, man?
Well, what do we have today? Croatia. Croatia went down early 1-0 to England and came back. England went into a shell, and Croatia cracked that shell a couple times to take the win 2-1. My question to you guys really about this is, the final is on Sunday, France versus Croatia. Will the experience of Croatia match up with the athleticism of France?
I think this is the first time we see them old dogs kind of take a step back. I think France is just way too fast, way too athletic, and those shootouts and all those overtime games and stoppage time, I think it's going to finally come back to beat Croatia.
Let's hope so.
I mean, you know, I think that we thought that, and yeah, Ara harped on the experience of Croatia, which definitely played a factor in the game against England. These two teams have a lot of history. Their most recent competition was a 0-0 draw, which a good portion of the players, particularly on the Croatian side, have played against France. Honestly, I just think it's just going to be a really good game. And I think if fatigue was going to play a factor, it would have played a factor against England. But I think being in the World Cup final, I think there's going to be a lot of adrenaline on Croatia's side. There's obviously going to be a lot of adrenaline on the French side. And I think we're in for a real treat. I'm really looking forward to the game.
I'm in for push-ups either way.
That's why I said I hope so.
I'm in for the shots.
I don't want to be in for push-ups.
We got two things running on Sunday.
Yeah.
Dev got push-ups. Right?
Unless.
No, he got push-ups.
No, he got butcher.
You know what? You're right. True statement.
And we taking shots for every shot on goal.
Kevin, that's you too, brother.
Yeah.
It's gonna be a long morning.
Listen, which is why I'm pulling for Croatia in the sense that I want to be sober throughout this process. But I think the game comes down to a difference in styles. Like if it's a 1-0, 2-1 game, I think that favors Croatia. But I think if it's a high-scoring match with 3-4 multiple goals being scored, I think that favors France. But I agree with the point you brought up, Kenyon. I think if Croatia was going to show any type of fatigue, it would have happened by now. And I'm a roll with old girl from Tuesday. I think.
Oh shit!
My thing is this though. Like, did you guys know that they still have a consolation game in the World Cup?
Yes.
You mean third place
The
game?
third place games. And it's England versus who did
Belgium.
Belgium.
Belgium. Yeah.
So you basically have
What time is that game?
It's Saturday.
Yep.
It's on Saturday.
No one even cares about
Nobody
that.
can like. Why
It's
would
a
you?
third place game, and I don't even think they're gonna play most of the starters.
Well, they might. Well, the Golden Boot award is up for grabs in that game.
That's right.
The cyborg Lukaku. Oh, and Harry Kane, actually.
Yeah.
You know,
Okay.
we used to have one in the NCAA tournament.
Yeah.
That shit stopped in '78. We got smart.
They should probably do the same thing and stop it as well.
Well, apparently they give away medals like gold, silver, and bronze, but like
They do, but
Don't
again,
nobody want that shit.
that's money.
Well,
That's all that's about.
also we have the Wimbledon going on right now.
Mm-hmm.
Serena made it to the finals against Kerber.
Mm-hmm.
I think on Tuesday we all stated that she's definitely a top 10 player, top 5, top 3, 2, 1.
Top 2.
So she's favored in this, and I don't know. I feel like she won in straight sets today, but Kerber did also.
the last two matches that Kerber and Serena have come in finals, both in 2016. Kerber defeated Serena 3 sets in the Australian Open. They also met in the Wimbledon final of
She's
2016.
2-6 head to head against.
and the two
Serena.
and then Serena got her in 2016 at Wimbledon. I think it's actually going to be a good match. Mm-hmm. It's going to be a very good match.
I think if Kerber plays the game she played today, straight sets like she's on her game. If she plays that game, Serena is going to have to
dig deep.
Yeah, she's going to have to dig deep. And I'm not saying she can't,
Right.
But she's playing. I don't think she should be favored. To tell you the truth.
Yeah, what I was gonna say is if Serena were to lose on Saturday, it wouldn't be an upset. I don't think.
No.
Okay.
She won't though, because listen. She done came way too far. You look at the HBO documentary she did. She ended up pulling out of the event before. This is a perfect storybook ending for her to come back and win this and shit on everybody for doubting her. Showing that black girl magic. Y'all know I ain't picking against her. I don't care what
And
y'all
then
say.
she'll tie the Margaret Court record if she does that, right?
Right.
I'm not betting against her. I'm not voting against her.
Right.
I'm just saying it's not going to be a cakewalk. She will have to dig deep for this one.
And Angelique's gonna make her dig deep. It's a great matchup.
It's her 10th Wimbledon final. Only 3 people have done that.
And,
Go.
no, I was about to say on the men's side. What we
Okay,
about to say?
before you go to the men's side, and I know we're talking about shoulda, woulda, couldas. What if Serena was a man? With all the achievements, everything that she's done, but now what if she was a man?
Black man?
A black man. Right. No, let's go there. Let's go there. But I'm saying
tennis?
if she was a black man doing everything that she's
They would
doing
have-
right now,
She'd be Roy Jones.
the greatest athlete ever,
I mean, who ain't fought nobody.
she definitely would be rich.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah, she'd be next level.
We talked about that last year though when who was it that brought up those comments about her if she played on the men's side and things like that. I think that the respect level will be through the roof, and definitely all 5 of our sons, even the ones that we haven't had yet, would be tennis players.
Well, the men's side, Mr. Federer looked his age in the last 3 sets of his match.
He got tapped on the
yeah.
shoulder. He got a double tap.
And he made the mistake of blinking.
But credit to Kevin Anderson, though. Kevin Anderson is a great server out of South Africa, and he stuck with his game. He did not get buried. I think the stat is like Federer is 366-2 when he is up 2-0,
Yep.
2 sets to 0. So credit to Kevin Anderson for hanging in there. and putting the pressure on him. And that fifth set, it was a great set, great match.
Number 2, Nadal, he made it through. He had a tough matchup also. So that sets up their semifinals, Djokovic versus Nadal.
Did y'all peep Djokovic going off on the umpire? This is like Djokovic is having like a renaissance, not necessarily in playing, but in personality. Like the crazy Joker is back out.
I think there's a point where you just stop giving a damn.
Does the American Eisner have a chance of winning this?
I'm rooting for him.
No.
I'm not.
It's Joker. Man.
When is the last time that I don't even remember the last, I guess, Andy Roddick, right?
Andy Roddick,
I'm not even going to use the word great, but just the last good American tennis player we had was Roddick. Competitive, right. And Eisner, he's been sort of this, I compare him to, you tell me what you think about this, Omar. I say he's the American Goran Ivanisevic. Like, very tall, powerful server that's always in the mix, but never quite breaks through.
Yeah, but he has some belief behind him. Like, I just don't have that same belief behind Eisner, man. I
like
don't.
Philippoussis.
Right. Right. Until he does it, I just don't believe it.
Well, him and Kevin Anderson, there's going to be a lot of aces in that matchup for sure.
Yeah.
Well, we all know we want to see.
It will be some power serves.
Yeah.
We can't wait to see that matchup, though. 51 times they played. The record is 26-25 Joker, but it was Nadal was whipping that ass early, so this isn't Clay.
It isn't Clay. Djokovic is now playing well. He had some injury issues. That's going to be a good
matchup.
matchup.
Time, especially with tennis, is how you playing now.
Yeah.
That shit matters. It carries over.
Both of them playing well now.
I think we thought, I mean, we were looking forward to Federer and Nadal and it being a classic. I think this matchup also has classic potential as well.
Yeah, but they say that this is one of the best tennis rivalries ever. They've met in all of the Grand Slams and 4 in a row at one point, so it's up there.
It is up there.
Kev, shoulda, coulda, woulda.
Well, that is indeed the bell. So, gonna take us to our main topic for today. So yesterday,
why does he sound like a preacher? It was Devin last year. Now it's you. I'm gonna take us to our main topic today.
We got faith here.
Break bread.
So yesterday was the 28th anniversary of the great Bo Jackson making that running catch and then scaling the wall like Spider-Man at Memorial Stadium, here in Baltimore, which was one of the most athletic plays you'll ever see in any sport. And then today was the 25th anniversary of Ken Griffey Jr. hitting the warehouse here at Baltimore Camden Yards, which I can see from my house. In the home run derby, he was the only player to ever do it in the history of ever since the stadium's been there in 1992. So those two feats accomplished by those two guys got me thinking of what never was, or what could have been, or what would have been if these two players stay healthy, which then leads all of us as a group to thinking about the most painful or personal shoulda, coulda, woulda situations in sports. So we just go around, share our stories, and then get commentary from other guys in the group. So I'm going to kick it off with my personal favorite or most painful, which starts and stops with Mr. Carmelo Anthony, whose entire career to me is a shoulda, coulda, woulda. And it started out the night that his NBA career began, when he was drafted 3rd overall by the Nuggets, but should have been drafted number 2 by the Detroit Pistons instead of Darko Milicic. I hope Joe Dumars is watching. So think about it like this. If Melo joined that Pistons team, he would have been, in my opinion, a perfect fit for a 50-win team that could have used a score. If they had any weakness, it was that they didn't have one go-to guy to give the ball to when it mattered most. He could have been the rookie on an already, veteran defensive-minded team with 4 All-Stars. That sounds familiar to a team today, that won the title 12 months later, returned to the finals the year after that, and made the playoffs 5 years straight. And I think with that system around him, in my opinion, I think it would have been Carmelo, not LeBron James, as tough as that is to imagine, that would have been the king of the Eastern Conference throughout the 2000s. And, instead he went to Denver, where they made the playoffs each of his 8 seasons there. But he somehow managed to even screw that situation up, where he had a good supporting cast, Chauncey Billups, J.R. Smith, Birdman, Kenyon Martin. He had a falling out with Coach George Karl, who is a Hall of Famer, should be a Hall of Famer. And even that situation, he left, ended up going to New York for a passion project with his birthplace team. But I mean, to me, I just look at now where Carmelo is in his career, like what could have been if he was in that situation, and maybe even didn't go to New York. Maybe at that time went to Chicago, who was a top team in the East, but again, had a great supporting cast, needed a score, and it didn't happen. So now looking at what he is now, almost a shell of himself, I could only imagine what could have been in a regretful history that is Mr. Carmelo Anthony.
Well, he definitely wouldn't have gone to the Knicks. That's for sure. He wouldn't have gone to the Knicks. And I think if that does happen, you know, maybe they win the title, because I know some things happened with Rasheed getting to the Pistons to help them go forward. Right. But at least they were set up for the future. And I think if he does go there, and they definitely beat the Spurs in the 2005 finals, and LeBron doesn't get to the finals in 2007, I think he also would be one of, I think, 8 people. He would be the 9th person to win a national championship, an NBA championship, and Olympic gold medal. And the people that are on that list are Magic, Jordan, and Russell. So I think it could have definitely changed the landscape of how the NBA is looked at for real.
Bah humbug. Carmelo did exactly what Carmelo wanted to do at all times. Didn't matter if he was in Detroit, didn't matter if he went to Denver, didn't matter. Carmelo was out for one thing, and that was paper. He never has played this game for championships. He's never played this game for anything but signing that contract, getting a max deal. I don't think any player like that will ever go anywhere and win anything.
I think that, you know, being a rookie, if he goes to Detroit, and I think we're kind of touching on it now, I think he learns how to, be a professional. He learns how to win, and he also understands at an earlier point in his career the bigger picture. And then I think that has residual effects downstream in terms of, because he is the player that he is. He would have been a great player, a great fit for Detroit. Probably makes Tayshaun Prince 6th man coming off the bench, which is a great piece. Him and Lindsey Hunter. You got Lindsey Hunter, Tayshaun Prince,
Antonio McDyess.
Damn. Right? And so he's a great fit for and a score, an isolation score that team, which they didn't have, that they could have used.
Deep team.
But aside,
they would have swept y'all Lakers. And no. Oh, sorry. Go ahead. Keep going, Kenyon. Sorry. My bad.
But aside from all of that. I just think that the intangibles, being on a veteran squad like that, I think would have served him well. And he wouldn't be the only guy out of that great 2003 class that has yet to win a title.
Yeah.
Right. People forget how buckets he was. Like, he's the first rookie, I think, since David Robinson to lead a playoff team in scoring. Like, Melo he didn't necessarily have the all-around game, but with a supporting cast like that anywhere, come on, man.
Kenny Smith
game was tight.
Yeah, Kenny Smith said for years that Carmelo was the easiest scorer in basketball for the vast majority of his career. Like, it was easy for him to get buckets. The mid-range game, he had the post game early on. And then his size, like he's a big, strong dude.
I just don't think he learned.
Easy.
I don't think he would have in Detroit. He wouldn't have fit in with those guys. They had a specific set of guys. I just don't. I think Melo is Melo.
It would have been better than Darko. Darko Milicic brought to the game.
I'm saying I just
forget that he did win a championship in college.
Yeah. I mean,
okay, I know he won a championship in college, just not the NBA. I think Melo is Melo. Is what I mean. I mean, Melo has had chances. He's a grown man. He's had chances to learn from his situation and make decisions, and he's always went for the paper.
I understand that, but you can't be a knucklehead. And it wasn't like Syracuse. That Syracuse team was a deep college team. Yeah. You can't be a knucklehead all the time and be able to have the sort of success that he did.
I never called him a knucklehead. I just don't think he fit in with that team.
I don't know. The leaders that Detroit had, and he's coming in as a coach, and he's coming in as a 19-year-old rookie. I think they could have formed him to be more of what you're talking about. I mean, personally, he did go for the money, but if he had took a lesson with the Chicago, what would have happened? D-Rose knees still would have gone out. I mean, you still would have ended up in the same place you were in New York.
Getting drafted by Detroit don't do nothing for Derrick Rose knees.
So, I mean, he can go for the money, and I mean, he did, and he's still going for the money, honestly. So, On to the next one is Len Bias. Now this one's kind of close because it actually changed some things for Laker fans.
It did.
Yes, it did.
Len Bias
I think
was
it changed some things for a whole lot of fans, for Chicago Bulls fans too.
You know, Len Bias was actually, he came out of University of Maryland, averaged 23 points a game as a senior, drafted number 2 to Boston, who was coming off of a championship. They traded.
What year was that?
1986.
86.
They traded Gerald Henderson and some cash for the number 2 pick, which ended up being, exactly. Coming off a championship and you get the number 2 pick.
Thief.
With the MVP on your team.
For real. Crazy. And it affected the league so much. I mean, Len Bias drafted on June 17th. Mm-hmm. June 18th, he goes to Boston. June 19th, he returns to Washington, goes out with some friends, and cocaine is 99-0. ODs.
And rounding third base.
And ODs, and that's it. I mean, he was set up to go on a Boston team who lost in the finals the next year to the Lakers in 6 games, and who lost in 7 games to Detroit the following year. It would have literally changed the landscape, like you said. He was considered to be just as dynamic as Michael Jordan.
Yep.
Could score, exactly. Could score. He had the he was taller than Michael Jordan, had the athleticism as much as Michael Jordan, and it literally changed everything.
He also had the work ethic. You know, he was unrecruited coming out of high school, going to the University of Maryland. And like Carmelo, again, the success that Maryland had, it was solely because of him. He took a terrible Maryland team and he worked them and led them to the success that they had. On a side note, though, we talk a lot about foreshadowing. You guys know what his nickname was as a kid? Frosty.
Oh,
that's too good. But I mean, to take it a little further about changing the landscape of the NBA, like you said,
Snow's gonna
they
get
probably get you guys in '87, right? They come back in '87. They get to the finals, so they still have a great record. They still draft Reggie Lewis.
Yep.
Reggie Lewis and Len Bias make Bird's career longer.
sure in the hell does.
And then it's those two down the stretch, but then Reggie Lewis also dies. So that shit could have been a problem. Detroit might not have got a ring. Chicago might not have got 6. I mean,
Kids, the lesson here is that cheaters never prosper, because Red Auerbach cheated and he paid the ultimate price.
I'm still disappointed in Les for even bringing this shit up. They wouldn't have beat us. I don't care what y'all say.
Hey, I don't know.
That's a hell of, you know what? Hey, let me tell you something. That's a hell of a front court. Reggie Lewis, Len Bias, and Larry Bird.
Jesus Lord.
And Kevin McHale.
And Robert Smokeham.
And Young.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, all right, next is the bane of my existence. In 2005, the San Francisco 49ers drafted Aaron Rodgers. Alex Smith. First overall. So we all know if they do that draft over, Aaron Rodgers goes number 1 instead of Alex Smith. But just go past that. In 2011, first Alex Smith's first 5 years.
Trash.
Yeah, but he had a different offensive coordinator each year.
Yeah, it wasn't his fault.
Yeah. In 2011, under Jim Harbaugh, he was having his best statistical year. He was leading the team. Everybody was surprised that he came around and was doing what he was doing. He was the leader of that team. He gets a concussion, misses 2 games. Harbaugh puts in a young Colin Kaepernick. Kaepernick, needless to say, never relinquishes the starting QB job. A couple years later, Alex Smith is gone. A couple years after that, Jim Harbaugh is gone. A couple years after that, we all know what happens with Colin Kaepernick.
And guess who stayed put?
Who?
Aaron Rodgers.
Guess who is where he was on that day.
So Jim Harbaugh is in Michigan. We all know what happened with Colin Kaepernick and the kneeling situation. Alex Smith is currently on his 3rd team in DC with Kevin's favorite team.
Don't do that.
the woulda is, should Alex Smith kept his starting job instead of, because usually a quarterback does not lose his job to injury.
Especially one that his last complete game, he was 18 of 19, 232 yards, 3 touchdowns, and Monday night win against Arizona. And then he got a concussion the following week.
Yep. And then and the worst thing about it is, which isn't talked about a lot, is the fact that Jim Harbaugh lost the locker room. The vets were done with him because they didn't trust him anymore. Which, after they went to the Super Bowl and they were one play from beating somebody's team.
But they did not.
I was just about to say, if all that doesn't happen and we don't have that heart attack that night, that game's over in the first quarter. We're still talking our shit.
But would Alex Smith have won that game?
No.
Hell no. It only got close when Kaepernick started making plays with his legs and showed how old Ray Lewis was. But yeah, I don't think he could have made those throws downfield that Kaepernick did to get them in the game.
Alex Smith was making every throw before that concussion.
To the tight end. Couldn't make the throw downfield.
I mean, and then you go farther than that. If he keeps his starting job, Harbaugh's probably still there. Kaepernick, no one cares if he's kneeling. No one's talking about the kneeling situation in the NFL.
The thing about that, too, is the following season, 2014, the Niners, even though they had injuries to Patrick Willis and Navarro Bowman in 2014, they still had the 5th-ranked defense. Offensively, though, they were 30th in passing. They were 25th in scoring. The last 8 weeks of the season, and if you guys remember, the season came down to the final week in terms of them making the playoffs. The final 8 weeks of the season, they averaged 13 points. So, to your point about Harbaugh still being there, right? Because remember, there was conflict between Harbaugh and Trent Baalke, okay? But if Alex Smith is still there, they're producing more on offense, probably matched the previous season's record of 12-4, 11-5. They're a playoff team. And so, yeah, Harbaugh is probably still there.
Because he keeps the locker room and the owner still believe in him.
And where is Colin Kaepernick?
Where are the Packers? Because they've been Aaron Rodgers a bust since the Super Bowl, since he took over, but mainly since the Super Bowl. As a team, like, I'm trying to figure out how did they exist? How did they build that team without a guy like that? They probably are trash, and maybe Omar's Bears aren't at the bottom.
Yeah, Aaron Rodgers wouldn't be. Aaron Rodgers wouldn't be the bane of my existence.
That's true.
Okay, so I want you guys to imagine the MLB today's MLB, having a team, say, in London, right? They've got a baseball team in London, and the Angels are like, listen, we're losing money because it's not working here in Anaheim. The Dodgers have gone to the World Series. They're winning again. We can't win with Mike Trout, and we need money. So we decide to trade Mike Trout to, let's call them the London Ambassadors. And then at that moment, when that happens, now all of a sudden baseball becomes a thing in Europe. And now, with the sagging popularity that the MLB currently has right now in America, we've talked about it ad nauseum. Attendance is down. Television views are down. They're not appealing to a young generation. All of a sudden, an entire market becomes invigorated with this sport, and it in turn transforms Major League Baseball. That's what happened when the Edmonton Oilers traded Wayne Gretzky in 1988. And that, for me, is a huge shoulda, coulda, woulda, because if the Edmonton Oilers don't do that, their owner, losing money, gonna lose the team, and basically says, listen, I need cash, so Wayne, you go find a deal. Wayne goes and finds a deal with a team in Los Angeles, the Los Angeles Kings, and his only stipulation was, listen, I'll do the deal. Their cash needs to be in the deal, number one. And then number two, you need to call me and formally ask for a trade, because he knew the blowback that would happen. And that's exactly what happens. Well, Wayne gets traded to the Los Angeles Kings. Now, all of a sudden, NHL goes from being a parochial sport. That's for you, Omar. And to now a widespread, truly national sport. And expansion, 21 teams in Canada goes to 31 teams. You look at hockey now, of the 31 teams that are in hockey, 23 are actually American teams. Now, because of the success of hockey in Los Angeles, which to that point, the only thing that was talked about in LA was the Dodgers and the Lakers and Hollywood, now all of a sudden hockey becomes a thing in Los Angeles. So now it convinces them to expand into the southern part of the United States. So the way we have a Nashville Predators team in 2017, we have a team in Las Vegas in 2018. Not only that, but you look at the impact in terms of the players now that are playing the game of hockey. Our World Junior Hockey Association team, the two best players are from California and Texas, two hot football states that now we have players in those areas, and it all stems from hockey. In all of the other sports, right, we can identify trades that have happened that have transformed franchises. The Lakers, when we traded for Shaquille O'Neal, as an example, but never has a deal been done that has transformed an entire league. Hockey probably would not be existing today if that deal is not done. So for me, that was my big shoulda, coulda, woulda, was the Wayne Gretzky deal.
So for me, mine was none other than Iron Mike Tyson, who's one of the most polarizing athletes and people in our generation, as well as one of the most popular boxers of all time. And I believe he's on this list because of all of the unknowns that we, don't know what could have happened. Like, what if Don King doesn't mind fuck him and take all of his money? He made over $300 million in purses. What if he never married Robin Gibbons? What if he never fired his trainer Kevin Rooney? We never got to see a prime Mike Tyson fight anyone of any relevance. And the 1990 mega fight where he was supposed to fight Evander Holyfield never transpired because he lost to James Buster Douglas. He's never mentioned among the greats of all time because he didn't compete against great champions. He had the misfortune of missing the great heavyweight era of the 70s. He was stuck in the 80s, and he didn't get the chance to fight the great heavyweights in the 90s era. So he's kind of forgotten about, and they always talk about how he fought no one. But let's be honest here. If all those things didn't happen, he murders Evander Holyfield in 1990, and he would have not gone to jail for the bogus rape charges, and because he would have had the proper people around him, and all of those big heavyweights.
A proper attorney.
not a tax attorney.
Right. Who got him the tax attorney?
Mr. Made in America.
Exactly. So if he's not around there mind fucking him, like I said,
This is America.
We don't know what happens. And we never got a chance to see that monster that KO Spinks in 88 the way we should have. So that's why I picked Mike Tyson.
I think I think out of all the what ifs you mentioned, I think the two biggest ones are that one, what if he had a real attorney, but then also two, I think what if he doesn't lose to Buster Douglas? Well,
he doesn't if he has Kevin Rooney as his trainer.
I mean, he was a heavy favorite with James Buster Douglas. I think he lost to Buster Douglas off of some other stuff. I don't think it had anything to do with not having a trainer.
Mike Tyson has mental issues. He was going to end up in jail some way, somehow.
Hey, I was about to say, Omar mentioned what Carmelo was about. We know Mike Tyson was about that action, bro. I don't know if
he got tigers.
Married to,
he did Big Meech before Big Meech did.
I don't know if there's enough people outside that could have stopped him from harming himself.
Right.
It was almost inevitable.
He talks to pigeons.
But I feel you, Dev.
I would have. If we would have been able to see that 1990 fight, though, I mean, we would have been talking about a different story.
And if I'm not mistaken, total on the line was $50 million. That was 1990.
Mm-hmm. Yep. I mean, he made $300 million in the 80s and 90s. If he was Floyd Mayweather's era, he would have made $1 billion.
And that's crazy. Now that's bananas. Yeah. He made $300 million in the 90s.
Mostly in the 80s.
If he's right. So if he realizes his potential as a boxer.
And think about it.
Is he a billionaire in the 90s?
His first 30 fights were probably a total of a real 12-round fight. Because 30 seconds, 40 seconds.
He might have broke the Federal Reserve because I don't even think we was printing that much money back then.
He was getting it.
He was getting all of it.
And he wasn't getting it.
He never got it.
Right. And now we need to get it out of here. So that's it for our show today. Thank you for joining us on Confirmation Bias. Remember to check out the website, theleagueam.com, as well as our handle on all social media, which is at theleagueam. Diplomatic community, please send your blogs and talk your shit. Liking is cool, but sharing is caring. We will see y'all next Tuesday after the World Cup. Pinkies up.
Did we trade for Shaq?
We didn't trade for Shaq.
Signed free agent.
I know. We traded for Kobe.